Hi everyone. So it's Halloween season, it's spooky season, and I thought this would be a good video to do. Um, which is I always found it um very interesting how like people like this actually did at one point, you know, was alive, they were real, were real. And um, that I just feel like bad for them because of how society treated them. Um, just because they don't look like, your average person doesn't mean they're not a human being with feelings and emotions. They've gone through so much hardship in their lives and had to spend their whole entire lives with people staring and gawking at them and talking about them and just not basically letting them to be a part of society, letting them be like outcasts and having to like work at circuses and be sideshow acts, be a freak show, and people call them freaks, and they're not freaks, like people, they just were born differently, and they don't have like the normal body type. Some of them had a normal body size. And like the world was basically nothing's created in the world was just made for like regular people. And so life for them was very difficult, but they learned to adapt, they learned to survive. And I just think that more people need to know about these people, need to know that they exist, that they were there in history. It's very rare what they have, a lot of them. But, there might be people still out there that, were born that way. There just aren't as many of them, so you don't really get to hear their stories. So I think it's important that we all hear their stories. So for this episode, we're gonna look at Pilates circus. I'm not gonna say the F word, who that actually existed. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's go to it. My screen. Make myself small as possible. Okay, let's go.
Freaks that actually existed, historical photos. Have you ever wondered what really went on behind the velvet curtains of old circus sideshows? Not the glamorized posters or exaggerated legends, but the real people. The human beings behind the titles like the Half Boy, the Bird Girl, or the Man with Two Heads. In an era long before modern medicine and inclusion, the world flocked to traveling shows not just for entertainment, but for curiosity. These weren't just performers, they were pioneers of survival, navigating a stage where applause and exploitation went hand in hand. From the triumphs to the tragedies, what you're about to hear isn't just history, it's humanity in its rawest form. Let's begin with a woman who didn't just perform. She fluttered, flapped, and turned herself into a living, breathing bird. Coo Coo, the Bird Girl. Born in Georgia in 1880, Minnie Woolsey was unlike anyone the world had seen. Living with Virchow-Seckel syndrome, a rare form of dwarfism often dubbed bird-headed due to its features, Minnie had a tiny frame, large eyes, and a sloping jaw. But where some saw strangeness, Minnie saw opportunity. She transformed herself into Coo Coo, the Bird Girl. Draped in feathery gowns and adorned with towering headdresses, she embraced a persona that was half human, half.
I just gotta say, this is kind of crazy that this person was able to actually get like footage from those, from those days and stuff like that. And yeah, she just basically like this is how she was born, and she just made the best out of it and stuff like that. And that's what a lot of them had to do. They had to make it the best out of, you know, what they how they were born.
Myth. Her movements were bird-like. Arms fluttered, feet danced, and her presence mesmerized. She became most famous for her appearance in Freaks, where her wild dance atop a banquet table left an eerie yet unforgettable impression. But that performance wasn't just spectacle, it was defiance. Minnie turned mockery into magic. Her routine walked the line between unsettling and captivating, forcing audiences to reckon with their own assumptions. Her later years remain a mystery, fading into the shadows like many sideshow stars. But the image of her dancing, bold and unashamed, remains frozen in film and in memory. The two-headed.
Okay, before we go to this one, I just want to say, like, you probably think that I'm like lying, but I honestly think that she was a pretty, woman, and like, yeah, her nose was kind of like almost big like, and she had a big forehead, and she was short in stature, but compared to this person, you know, like life was difficult, but at least she had all full limbs. I'm just gonna say that. Because I'm not gonna give everything away, but there are people in the video who are missing a limb or two. We got this person who's gonna say parasite trends. Actually, they are wrong trends, and this does happen, and like when the babies are developing in the stomach, and they can both heads can talk, both arms, legs can walk. They are just two twins that are just, attached, and they can be attached, just like the two-headed man right here. And this is like a more serious one. I think the surgery, like the surgery that existed back in the day was very sketchy. And even today, I think it would be pretty hard for them to be separated. Some it might be easier, but when it's something like this, it's more complicated of a procedure. But I'm not a doctor, but it's but he was a parasite, but no, they are conjoined trends. Just like
Man. History never gave him a name, but sideshow posters did. The two-headed man was born with parasitic twins,
not past
a
it.
rare condition where an underdeveloped second head is fused to a living, functioning body. He became a must-see figure in early 20th century circuses. Some claimed the second head would twitch. Others said it whispered. But whether those tales were fact or fabrication, one thing is certain. He was never given full humanity in the eyes of the crowd.
I mean, just like regular trends, even though do share a body, they are two separate beings, with different personalities and stuff like that. So, this unconsciousness, they don't share the same conscious. But yeah, when they showed him like smiling, it's like, is this a video or a picture? Because that was a little bit creepy seeing him smile. But yeah, it looks like he might have blue eyes because of how like light they are in the black and white.
In truth, parasitic twins result from incomplete
Conj-
embryonic separation, a
Conjoined.
phenomenon as tragic as it is rare. But in the golden age of sideshows, scientific nuance gave way to eerie fascination. His life was not his own. He was a symbol, a legend, and an object of grotesque wonder.
Fortunately.
He vanishes from records, unnamed and unburied in the annals of public memory.
I like how I say like he should say them because they are, two separate people. They just share a body, so he really should say them. It's he one as one. Sorry, I'm gonna feel criticisms here and there, but for this guy, you gotta pay respects. Gotta pay respects.
A haunting reminder that while the crowd may cheer, it doesn't always care.
No.
From tragedy to triumph, our next performer didn't hide his transformation. He embraced it and became an icon of power. Maurice Tillet. Maurice Tillet was born in 1903 in Russia, and by all accounts looked like any other young boy. But everything changed when he turned 17. Diagnosed with acromegaly, a hormonal disorder causing abnormal bone growth, Maurice's face and hands began to enlarge rapidly. But Maurice didn't shy away. He leaned in. Fluent in 9 languages, a devout Catholic, and even a poet, Maurice moved to France, then to the US, where he became a professional wrestler. His stage name, the French Angel. He wasn't just a curiosity.
Yeah, even though like a bunch of us probably got to get like bigger and stuff like that, he still looks kind of like, at least in my eyes, he still looks like, just everyday person. So it's just like not like back then was it's also things of like being different. This kind of like categorize you as a freak. But I don't see him as that. I hope you guys don't see him as that. I just see him as, just I'm not gonna say ordinary. I'm just gonna say like he was. I just don't see any huge differences with him. But back then, the small things. So
He was a champion. In the ring, he radiated strength, winning the American Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Championship. Fans loved him. Children admired him.
seems like a
And
basic
yet,
man.
beneath the persona, Maurice often battled illness and pain in silence. Before his death in 1954, he agreed to have casts of his face made. Those plaster masks now sit in museums, whispering the legacy of a man who turned hardship into heroism and became a possible inspiration for the animated character Shrek decades later.
Well, that one thing that is really sad that he became like the inspiration for Shrek. But I think like since they actually have cast of his face and like museums and stuff like that, his spirit might still, technically like still be him because a part of him is still here. So who knows? Maybe he's moving around between the places that has the cast of his face and you know, his I believe in that kind of stuff. Sorry. I'll move on. I'm not getting into that now. Like
Johnny
oh
Eck. Before CGI, before stunt doubles, there was Johnny Eck, a man who turned disbelief into applause. Nicknamed the Half Boy, or the Man with No Body, Johnny was born in 1911 with sacral agenesis, a rare condition that left him without functional legs. But Johnny didn't see himself as half of anything. He learned to walk on his hands. Not only walk, but perform acrobatic feats that left crowds breathless. He even played basketball, moving with speed and precision using only his upper body. And
Sorry to interrupt again. I know this is gonna be a long video. I just think that it's just like amazing because, like I said, like there are gonna be people in this video that don't have like limbs. He has like his complete lower body is just gone, and the fact that someone can survive without like the lower half of the body, like live, is just like it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and I'm just like I don't know. I'm just like I'm actually stunned and oh, but keep.
unlike many sideshow acts, Johnny had a twin brother, Robert, who supported him both on and off the stage, making their bond part of the act. Outside the tent, Johnny was a Renaissance man. He painted, sculpted, designed miniatures, and even worked as a film actor, most famously in Todd Browning's cult classic Freaks, 1932.
Of course.
He later ran a miniature train attraction in his hometown of Baltimore and lived well into his 70s. Johnny once said, "I'm not a sideshow freak, I'm a performer." But what if your very body was never truly yours to control? The next story isn't just about performance, it's about captivity, sisterhood, and a lifetime of yearning.
Enjoy
Daisy and Violet Hilton. Born in 1908 in Brighton,
There you
England,
go.
Daisy and Violet Hilton were conjoined twins, joined at the hips, sharing blood circulation but not organs. Their mother gave them up at birth. They were taken in by Mary Hilton, who saw not daughters but dollars.
Yeah, so like those two men they showed before, how it would have been harder to separate them since they don't share any organs or anything. That separating them would have been like a much more easier procedure, especially nowadays. It would have been like no problem. But of course, they just decided to, they were born in this world together, and they ended up leaving this world together too. So it was their choice to stay together, and I admire that they decided to do that, and the fact that someone just like saw them and instead of adopting them and treating them like the human beings that they are, they just treat them like, a way to make money. And that's what happened to a lot of these people, unfortunately. They just saw them as a way to make money and not as the human beings that they are. So that's
For decades, Daisy and Violet were marketed as a miracle. They learned to sing, dance, play instruments. They toured across Europe and America, performing in vaudeville acts and starring in films like Chained for Life.
so it'd be
But
interesting.
behind the scenes, their lives were
Okay, so it would be, and the fact that they learned how to change clothes, mm, very impressive.
tightly controlled. Their earnings were taken. Their decisions were made for them. Only in adulthood were they able to break free and manage their own careers. Though they finally experienced moments of autonomy, their lives were marked by struggle. They died together in 1969 from the Hong Kong flu, their bodies discovered days later. They had shared a stage, a body, and a lifelong quest for freedom. Joe Martin Lorello.
Very pretty young girls, but yeah, they just want to be, independent women, and it took them a long time until they were. And the fact that it took people days to realize that to like find them dead is just it's really sad. It's really sad. It's crazy.
No special effects, no camera tricks. In the golden age of sideshows, Joe Martin Lorello had a trick up his neck, literally. Born in 1886, Lorello became famous for a talent that startled even hardened spectators. He could rotate his head a full 180 degrees.
Like an owl.
Yes, you read that right. Joe arrived in the US in 1921, and not long after joined the legendary Barnum and Bailey Circus, where he built a reputation as the Owl Man. He would walk across the stage.
So real quick about Bomb Bailey, I know like a lot of people say I've heard that the movie The Greatest Showman, the bomb was not at all anything like that. I have not read up on how he actually was. This to the people who were in his circus and in his like sideshow performances. But some people say that he just saw them as just like everyone else, right? To like make money, make a profit. So that is true. Like you ruin the movie for me. I'm fine with the movie being ruined. Because that's how he would want the world to perceive him. And obviously, if that's how he wants the world to perceive him, then he's not at all like he is portrayed in the movie, unfortunately.
With his head fully turned backward, grinning eerily at the crowd from over his shoulder.
It's great.
The act was silent, strange, and unforgettable.
Okay.
In 1940, Life magazine featured a photo of Lorello in mid-performance, a haunting image that made him a minor celebrity.
Vanessa the dog.
Behind the scenes, Joe was quiet and disciplined. He rarely spoke about his condition, but medical experts suspected it stemmed from unusual vertebral flexibility and pain tolerance. He passed away in 1955, leaving behind a legacy of silent, contorted showmanship that still haunts sideshow lore today. From someone known for his twisting form, we turn now to the smallest performer ever recorded. Proof that
So like basically like how like people like double jointed and how they can like move the bodies in some way without feeling like any kind of like pain. That's I guess kind of like what he had in a way was which made him be able to turn his head all the way around, which is crazy. Let's go to the next one.
stature is no measure of stage presence. Pip and Flip. Next up are two sisters whose appearance sparked fascination, but whose spirit brought joy. Meet Pip and Flip, conjoined twin performers with microcephaly, a condition causing a significantly smaller head and developmental challenges. Billed as the twins of Yucatan, their origin was likely fabricated to make them seem exotic.
It doesn't look like they conjoined to, so I don't know why I said that the conjoined. But yeah, if you did watch American Horror Story, you know where they got the inspiration for all those characters from these two lovely ladies right here.
Truth is, we still don't know exactly where they were born. But what we do know is this: audiences didn't just marvel at their appearance, they adored their presence. They had an innocence about them. Their joy was infectious, and those who worked alongside them said they brought light backstage, not just under the big top. Pip and Flip found their place with the Circus of Horrors, and later became known to the world through the film Freaks, a rare cinematic time capsule of real sideshow life. In a world that often exploited, they reminded audiences of something deeper: that joy isn't always measured by convention or intellect. Frances O'Connor.
I like how in the picture they did pick them as being very pretty, though. That was nice of them to do that. Just go into this one.
Imagine brushing your hair, writing a letter, sipping a glass of water, all with your feet. That was the everyday reality of Frances O'Connor, a woman born in 1914 without arms. But what could have been a quiet, isolated life became a bold journey into the spotlight. At just 15 years old, Frances joined the Ringling Brothers Circus, where she amazed audiences not with tricks or exaggeration, but with real, lived skill. She ate, sewed, drank, and even applied makeup using only her toes. She lived with her mother in Sheridan, Wyoming, and traveled extensively across the U.S. Her act didn't rely on exaggeration or discomfort. It relied on admiration. Frances didn't perform as a freak, she performed as proof of human adaptability and strength. She later married and quietly retired from the circus world, but her legacy lives on as one of grace and independence. Pauline Musters. Born in the Netherlands in 1876, Pauline Musters stood only 21.8 inches tall, earning her a place in the Guinness World Records as the shortest woman to have ever lived. But don't let her size fool you. Pauline was a giant in talent. Trained as an acrobat and dancer, she captivated audiences across Europe with her elegant footwork, balancing acts, and spirited personality. Nicknamed Princess Pauline, she toured Paris, London, and even New York. But fame came with risk. Traveling in the late 19th century as a medically fragile person meant constant exposure to illness. In 1895, just 2 days into her U.S. debut, Pauline died of pneumonia and meningitis. She was only 19. Her passing stunned the press. Obituaries mourned her not as a curiosity, but as an artist, proof that in her short life, Pauline had earned admiration that reached far beyond her frame. Grace McDaniels.
Yeah, so I didn't feel, you know, it is sad that she died so young, but yeah, they had so many diseases back then. And if you did have like a delicate immune system, survival, no, very short. A lot of people didn't live very long back then anyways. But let's move on to this woman right here.
Grace McDaniels was born in 1888 with Sturge-Weber syndrome, a condition that caused severe facial birthmarks and deformities. To a society obsessed with appearances, she was labeled the mule-faced woman. But behind the stage name was a woman with dignity, love, and grit. In the 1930s, she joined Harry Lewiston's traveling circus, where she earned enough to support herself and her son, Elmer. She became a loyal performer, often refusing photo ops that felt degrading and insisting that her son receive an education. Those who knew her described Grace as soft-spoken, intelligent, and fiercely maternal. She wasn't looking for pity. She was looking for a place where she and her son could survive. Upon her death in 1958, Elmer buried her in her hometown with a simple gravestone, far from the bright lights, but close to the home she always loved. Annie Jones. Born in Virginia in 1865, Annie Jones had a full beard by the time she was 5, a result of hirsutism, likely caused by a hormonal imbalance. That same year, she began her career with P.T. Barnum, labeled the Bearded Girl. Unlike many sideshow acts, Annie wasn't silent. As she matured, she became an outspoken advocate for performers like herself, publicly objecting to the term freak and fighting for respect and fair treatment within the industry. She toured Europe, appeared on stage in elegant Victorian dresses, and demanded to be seen as more than just facial hair. Annie married twice, and her grace and wit earned her admiration from fans and fellow performers alike.
Hey, good on her to be able to land a man 2 different times. The fact that the first one didn't work out, hopefully the second one did. But yeah, like we all like us women, like we're always like obsessed, like, oh no, we're going facial hair, blah blah blah. But like for her, um, right at the bat, she had a beard. And did she complain about it? No, she did not. She embraced it, and maybe that's something us modern women should have to do and not have to worry about what other people think. Maybe we should be able to embrace having hair on our face. But good on her for being an advocate for the people in the circus and stuff like that she felt was being treated unfairly. So good for her. Good job, Annie.
Though she passed away in 1902 at just 37, her legacy
Young.
endured, not just as a sideshow star, but as a woman who refused to be reduced to her difference. Susie. In a world obsessed with appearances, Susie was born with ichthyosis,
I'm just making sure I'm still recording. We're still recording.
a rare skin condition that causes extreme dryness, thickening, and scaling of the skin. To the sideshow crowd, she was known by cruel nicknames like Alligator Girl or Elephant Skin Woman. But to those who knew her, she was a fighter. Her skin constantly cracked, bled, and required meticulous care. Still, she stood under the harsh lights of the circus, allowing strangers to gawk, not out of vanity, but survival. Sideshows offered something no one else did: employment and a place to belong.
Exactly.
Susie turned her condition into a presentation, educating some, entertaining others. But it was never easy. Constant physical discomfort accompanied her, and the emotional toll of being objectified could never be ignored. From skin as armor to hair as a spectacle, our next story takes us deep into the jungles of perception and a disturbing pseudoscientific past. Crau Farini. Imagine being a child and being told you were a bridge between apes and humans.
Yeah, so that when she was born, like she ended up having a beard. These people, they were born with like basically like just like hair all over the body. Um, and the people saw them like you're saying, like less as human. They didn't see them as human because of them being born with hair all over the body, and it just kept as they grew, the hair grew.
That's how Crau Farini, born in 1876 in Laos, was introduced to Western audiences. She had hypertrichosis, a condition causing excessive hair growth all over her face and body. But instead of compassion, the Victorian era wrapped her in the grotesque theory of evolution as spectacle. Labeled the missing link, she was displayed in Europe and America as proof of Darwin's ideas, pushed not by science but by profiteers like P.T. Barnum.
Profiteers, there you go.
Dressed in tribal costumes, Crau was told to grunt, pose, and stay silent. But behind the scenes, she was fluent in several languages and was said to be witty, articulate, and observant. She remained in show business well into adulthood and passed away in Brooklyn in 1926. By then, she had become a sideshow veteran, but more importantly, a woman who had lived her entire life under a label she never chose.
Nope, now I'm gonna choose them.
Fedor Jeftichou.
That one? There you go.
Fedor Jeftichou was born in Russia in 1868 with hypertrichosis, like Crau. But his story took a more theatrical path. Under the care of his showman father, Fedor toured Eastern Europe before being discovered by P.T. Barnum, who renamed him Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy.
Bottom.
On stage, Fedor barked, growled, and snarled, following a character forced upon him by Barnum's.
Exactly, the fact that he's having them act like they are animals and not people is just so messed up. And they're like so white and intelligent, and the people do not get to see that. They don't get to see who they really are, and that just isn't white. That let's proceed.
Marketing machine. The hair on his face, ears, and arms was real. The performance? Manufactured. But audiences adored him. Offstage, Fedor was shy and polite. He spoke multiple languages and enjoyed reading. Sadly, he died of pneumonia at just 36. His story, however, lived on. Decades later, Fedor's look reportedly inspired the design of Chewbacca in Star Wars,
Oh, that's
a pop culture icon that echoes his.
didn't mean to laugh. That's just yet again that when they that they're using these people as like inspiration for these characters years later is just oh gosh. I'm trying my best. This is so hard for me. I would guess enjoy
His
it.
unforgettable face. He may have been billed as beastly, but Fedor was all human, kind, intelligent, and misunderstood. Mary Ann Bevan. Born in Britain in 1874, Mary Ann Bevan led a quiet life, working as a nurse, marrying a loving man, and raising children. But after her husband's untimely death, everything changed. Mary began to develop symptoms of acromegaly, which caused her face and body to enlarge and harden. Now widowed and visibly changed, she struggled to support her 4 children. In desperation, she entered a Ugliest Woman contest and won. That victory brought offers from circuses and sideshows. Though dehumanizing, Mary took the work, not for fame, but to feed her family. She toured throughout Europe and America, often smiling despite cruel whispers. Behind the headlines was a mother who did what she had to do. And though newspapers mocked her, many in the audience admired her resilience. Mary died in 1933, having endured more cruelty than most ever will. But today, she is often remembered not with ridicule, but with respect. Pansy Chinery. In the early 1900s, aerial acts were all the rage, but few dared to do what Pansy.
Back in the day, yeah, but like seeing people actually like doing like all these crazy things like Omega's Got Talent, besides using the teeth, but using like other parts of the body that you wouldn't think that person would use to do stuff like that, but also like really heavy things.
Chinery, known by her stage name Ed E. Iana, pulled off. Literally. Pansy was an aerialist who suspended herself from trapezes using only her teeth, spinning and swinging high above the crowd with no safety net. It was terrifying and mesmerizing. Audiences screamed, some turned away, but Pansy held firm, jaw clenched on a leather grip or steel ring, trusting her strength and her timing. Little is known about her life outside the tent, but her act became legendary during World War I-era circuses. She symbolized more than daredevilry. She symbolized female strength in a time when women were expected to stay grounded. Bill Dirks.
Yeah, she like most of these people she didn't have like, physical, but yet she was very talented at something and she wanted to show everyone what she is capable of doing and that there's nothing wrong with being a strong, independent woman back in the day when that was heavily frowned upon. So, okay.
Born in Alabama in 1913, Bill Dirks had a cleft palate and a severe facial deformity that gave the impression of 2 noses and an exaggerated central forehead. But in his 40s, rather than hiding away, Bill turned his face into a brand. Using makeup, prosthetics, and a clever trick of illusion, He rebranded himself as the Man with 3 Eyes and 2 Noses.
Long title.
While the third eye wasn't real, the crowd didn't care. His act fit the tone of mid-century sideshows, mystery over medical truth. But Bill wasn't just a gimmick. He found love within the sideshow circuit, marrying fellow performer Mildred, known as the alligator-skinned woman. The couple traveled together, worked together, and even appeared on sideshow posters as a dynamic duo. Bill's story is a reminder that sometimes embracing your difference is the path to freedom and to love.
I think there's the two of them right there. That's so sweet. See, even they, find love, of course, most likely within the circus themselves itself, because people outside of it aren't accepting. So it's good that they're still able to find love with the fellow performers. So they deserve love too.
Alice Elizabeth Daugherty. Born in Minneapolis in 1887 with hypertrichosis lanuginosa, Alice Elizabeth Daugherty entered the world covered in fine, silvery blonde hair, like a newborn mammal. By the age of 5 months, she was already being exhibited in storefronts and expositions. Dubbed the Minnesota Woolly Girl, Alice never chose the spotlight.
No.
It was chosen for her. Her parents, seeing a unique opportunity, displayed her for profit,
Of course.
touring the Midwest through traveling shows. Her condition, while harmless, made her a constant object of fascination. Yet Alice was known to be sweet-tempered, intelligent, and fond of reading, traits often ignored by promoters who focused solely on her fur-like appearance. She eventually retired.
The fact that her parents saw her as that, hopefully her siblings didn't see her that way. If they saw her that way too, I felt even more bad for this girl, for this young woman. Yeah. And then that's the thing, like, even people who look, like I do, and stuff like that, all the celebrity children that also got, they also, the parents saw them as a way to make money too. So it shows like it doesn't matter like if you're born with like a disformity or anything like that, or you're born without one, parents see a way of making money, they're going to take advantage of that. And the children don't really get any say in the matter, they just have to go along with it. So.
From performing in her early 20s and led a quieter life, away from gawking crowds. Her story is bittersweet, a reflection of a child who grew up on display and who finally claimed her own space off stage. Lavery Valley.
Strong woman.
Known to the public as Charmian, Lavery Valley was a professional trapeze artist with a bold twist. In the early 1900s, when modesty ruled public life, Lavery had the audacity to strip while swinging on a trapeze. Yes, you read that right. Her act began in a full Victorian dress. As she swung, she removed layer after layer, petticoats, bodice, gloves, until she revealed a form-fitting leotard beneath.
What your eyes should
The crowd? Shocked, entranced, delighted. But Charmian's act was more than titillation. It was performance art. In a time when women couldn't vote, she dominated the air with elegance and power. Even Thomas Edison filmed her in 1901, capturing her aerial striptease as a novelty, and perhaps unknowingly as a feminist statement. She redefined what a female performer could be, and the echoes of her defiance still ring through stages today. Millie and Christine McCoy.
And the fact that that's still not the norm nowadays to have like strong women. There are strong women out there. They're like bodybuilders, there's wrestlers, MMA fighters, all that. Paula's playing for back right now. Paula, are you interrupting the video?
Born conjoined in 1851 in North Carolina, Millie and Christine McCoy entered the world under the cruel weight of slavery. They were sold as infants and passed between showmen like commodities. But within them bloomed astonishing resilience. Connected at the base of their spines, the twins learned to walk, dance, speak multiple languages, and sing in perfect harmony.
Very intelligent.
They were
Yeah.
billed as the two-headed nightingale and eventually became
too bad.
stars on both sides of the Atlantic.
Not too bad for me.
After emancipation, they took greater control of their careers and earnings, an extraordinary feat for formerly enslaved, disabled women in the 19th century. Edouard
Oh, man.
Beaupré. Born in Saskatchewan in 1881, Edouard Beaupré grew faster than anyone in his small town. By age 9, he was over 6 feet tall. By 21, he stood a staggering 7 feet 8 inches, making him one of the tallest people on record. But Edouard wasn't just tall, he was strong. Before joining the circus, he worked as a ranch hand and could lift a full-grown horse onto his shoulders.
Wow. Oh, well.
Soon, he was recruited by Barnum and Bailey,
Of course.
becoming a star attraction for his size, strength, and quiet charm. He also wrestled professionally, earning respect beyond the spectacle. Sadly, he died young in 1904 from tuberculosis.
I think this is showing them displaying his dead body right there, because that's what it kind of looks like. It doesn't look like a real person, so. Apollo, you're making this video even longer. Stop playing with my hair. It's my bag of fake hair. I have clipping fake hair, and he's just like playing for it right now. So he's being a bad boy. Sorry about that.
23 years old. His body was displayed for years without consent, till it was finally returned to his hometown for a proper burial. A final act of dignity for a man who...
That is so messed up that once he died, instead of like telling the family like, "Oh, your son passed away," they put his dead body on display so people could like take pictures with his corpse. That is like one of the most effed up things I have ever heard. That is just so wrong. I can't believe they did that to that poor man. You have to have respect for the dead. It doesn't matter who they are. You need to have respect for them at least. Unless you want them to haunt your ass. Right, Paulo? Yeah, ridiculous.
whose life was lived on display.
Yeah.
Teo Valenzuela. Weighing an astonishing 645 pounds, Teo Valenzuela earned the title, heaviest man in the world. But behind that headline was a man navigating life in a body that often brought him pain as well as public curiosity. Teo became a local celebrity, performing in small traveling shows and county fairs. At a time when obesity...
Yeah, and that thing is like, since obesity is like so common nowadays and stuff like that, so like how much he weighed is nothing compared to how much there are people who out there weigh. And that is just, that's a problem.
Obesity was misunderstood and often ridiculed. Teo offered himself to the public gaze for livelihood and perhaps for a sense of identity. Everyday life wasn't easy. Walking, dressing, sleeping. Each task came with its own challenges. But when Teo appeared on stage, he carried his weight with surprising confidence and even humor, sometimes joking with the crowd about his size.
Hello?
Unzi.
He looks like Albert Einstein, but even bigger. His head's like even bigger than Albert Einstein, which is sick. Very impressive. But yeah, he has he's gonna say it, but he has like albinism, which means that the pigmentation in his hair, skin, and eyes are just like gone. There's like no pigmentation, and so that means they're very sensitive to bright lights. The eyes are sometimes like red, like a white bunny rabbit or mouse.
In the early 20th century, when science had yet to demystify conditions like albinism, Unzi was billed as the albino man and became a sensation in the US and abroad. Born with a lack of pigment in his skin, hair, and eyes, Unzi stood out and was recruited early into the circus world. His startling appearance, pale skin, white lashes, nearly translucent hair, drew crowds fascinated by what they didn't understand. Promoters leaned into the mystery, claiming he had magical powers or came from a distant, icy land. But Unzi was no ghost. He was a professional. He performed with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, always punctual, polite, and well-spoken. Behind the act was a man who endured bright lights and flashing cameras that caused him physical discomfort, particularly because albinism often comes with visual sensitivity. Yet, he performed. He endured. And in doing so, he paved the way for greater visibility of people with albinism, even as he remained a curiosity in his time. Grady Stiles Jr. Grady Stiles Jr. was born in 1937 with ectrodactyly, a genetic condition that fuses fingers and toes into claw-like shapes. In the sideshow world, he was known as Lobster Boy, and he wasn't the first. His family had a long line of performers with the same condition. Grady performed for decades.
So I guess that means that it is, in a way, genetic. If there's a long line of people in the circus that have that were born with that, it sounds like it is like a genetic thing, so makes it probably even more rare, since that is with jinx.
Falling across the stage with his powerful upper body.
Mhm.
But behind the curtain, his life unraveled. He struggled with alcoholism and domestic abuse, and in 1978, he shocked the world by murdering his daughter's fiancé with a shotgun. Despite his crime, courts gave him house arrest, citing his physical condition. He later remarried, but the violence didn't stop. In 1992, his wife and son hired a hitman to kill him. Grady was murdered in his home, bringing a tragic, violent end to a life already haunted by pain and dysfunction. Eli Bowen. Born in 1844 with phocomelia, Eli Bowen had no legs and shortened arms. But what he lacked in limb length, he made up for in pure upper body strength. Dubbed the legless
Yeah, it looks like he might have feet. Fascinating.
acrobat, Eli stunned audiences in the late 1800s by flipping, spinning, balancing, and even performing on
Still had a family though. Even more impressive. Good for you, Eli.
parallel bars, all with his torso and arms. Audiences came expecting pity. They left inspired. He was a regular performer for major American circuses and was widely admired, even outside the tent. P.T. Barnum personally championed him as a marvel of perseverance and ability. Eli married, had 4 children, and maintained a stable family life, an exceptional achievement for a sideshow star of his era. His resilience, both on stage and at home, made him a symbol of triumph, not tragedy. Now let's meet someone who didn't have arms or legs, yet found ways to move, to work, and to shine.
Very impressive.
Aloysia Wagner. Born in Germany in the early 1900s, Aloysia Wagner, known by her stage name Violetta,
Yeah, she basically looks like a living mannequin because she doesn't have arms or legs. She's just a torso and a head. Like I said, it's just mind-boggling that people like that, they were, in the world, and yet they were able to still function. Like, if they did have limbs and stuff like that, they were still able to figure out and adapt and learn to do things without, like, one person, like, she didn't have any arms, at least she had her feet. She doesn't have feet either, so very, very impressive.
was born without arms or legs due to tetra amelia syndrome. But even without limbs, she refused to be helpless. With the support of her half-brother, she emigrated to the United States and joined the sideshow circuit, where she was introduced as the beautiful Venus without arms and legs. And indeed, she was beautiful. She combed her hair, dressed herself, wrote, and even sewed. using only her mouth. Her act stunned audiences not because of her condition, but because of what she did in spite of it.
Yeah.
It was a performance of skill, control, and quiet rebellion against expectations. Joseph Merrick. Born in Leicester, England in 1862, Joseph Merrick suffered from severe deformities believed today to be caused by Proteus syndrome and neurofibromatosis. His head grew to 3 times normal size. His skin thickened, and his right arm enlarged beyond function. He became a sideshow act across Britain under the name The Elephant Man. But Joseph wasn't grotesque. He was gentle, poetic, and brilliant. He loved Shakespeare, built cathedral models from paper, and longed for simple dignity. After years of cruel exhibition, he found refuge at London Hospital, where he was cared for and treated with respect. Joseph's story reached the world through David Lynch's 1980 film, which captured the emotional truth beneath the spectacle. His quiet plea, spoken in real life and echoed on screen, still haunts history. I am not an animal, I am a human being. Dominique Castagna. Little is remembered about Dominique Castagna, but in the early 20th century, he was one of many sideshow performers billed as the living skeleton. Dominique weighed less than 70 pounds and stood tall, his ribcage starkly outlined beneath paper-thin skin. His condition, possibly caused by tuberculosis or a wasting disorder, made him appear otherworldly. He performed by simply standing still, a silent statement of physical extremity. Often paired with fat ladies for contrast, his role was to shock, to create imbalance, to make the crowd wonder, how can he be alive? Frankie Saluto. Frankie Saluto stood just 3 feet tall, but on the circus stage he towered over the crowd with charm and wit. As a white-faced clown with Ringling Brothers, Frankie was beloved not for his difference, but for his brilliance.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, I am short, but there are people out there that are like short than me, and I'm always kind of like this gobsmacked, and just like my mind just cannot wrap around like how this book like this person's shorter than me and stuff like that. And I have seen people who are even shorter in stature. I don't see them that often, but I do. And I don't go up towards them and talk to them. I don't. Like if they talk to me, I'll talk to them. But I'm not gonna just like go up and talk to them. I'm just gonna let them do their thing. And yeah. But I am always like just like well, and I thought was short, and I'm always subconscious about my height. And like I complain about like how like oh how difficult it is for me being short, but it's like it's even more difficult for them, so I should not be complaining. We shouldn't be complaining. Gross up from now on.
He carried a live rabbit on stage, delighted kids with slapstick, and even wowed adults with a dead-on Charlie Chaplin impersonation. Audiences didn't laugh at Frankie. They laughed with him. Unlike many other performers in this list, Frankie's story is light, joyful, and even inspiring.
Yes, it is.
He embraced performance fully, retiring with dignity and being remembered as one of the greatest little clowns in circus history. He proved that difference doesn't have to mean despair, it can be celebration. Josephine Myrtle Corbin. Born in 1868 in Tennessee, Josephine Myrtle Corbin stunned doctors and sideshow promoters alike. She had a rare congenital condition called dipagus, which resulted in 2 separate pelvises and 4 legs, 2 normal-sized and 2 smaller ones. Myrtle joined sideshows at a young age billed as the 4-legged girl from Texas. The posters drew crowds. The reality? A kind, soft-spoken young woman who used her difference as a means of self-sufficiency. But Myrtle didn't stay on stage forever. She eventually retired and married a doctor.
Aww.
Astonishingly, she gave birth to 5 children, a biological feat made possible by her unique anatomy.
Wow.
Her life defied every expectation, not just medically, but socially. In a world that saw her as
I mean, not too surprising, but just a, you know, um, I'm just gonna call him a basic manzy, basic man, um, who was able to see past, um, the physical difference, married, and she had 5 children. That is just that's great. Glad happy for.
Odd, Myrtle built a quiet life of motherhood, marriage, and dignity. Her story proves that even the most extreme physical difference can still cradle the most
That's well.
universal human experiences: love, family, and resilience. John Jennings. In the early 1900s, few names echoed through circus grounds like John Jennings, the man billed as the modern Samson. With bulging muscles and biblical branding,
He's a
Jennings didn't
strong man.
rely on his looks or unusual anatomy. He
Mhm.
relied on pure strength. His signature act? Bending steel bars with his bare hands, pulling carts with ropes attached to his chest. Once he reportedly even held back 2 galloping horses with each arm, muscles rippling as the crowd gasped. But
Incredible.
John wasn't just a performer. He was a symbol of unyielding power during a time when masculinity and myth often collided. His strongman act toured across state fairs and European exhibitions.
Mhm.
Offstage, he was quiet and disciplined, training rigorously to ensure each feat was authentic. George and Willie Muse. Born in late 19th century Virginia, George and Willie Muse were African American brothers with albinism, a rare condition made even more striking by their black heritage. But their story didn't begin under the circus lights, it began with tragedy. In 1899, the boys were kidnapped from their mother by circus promoters who renamed them Echo and Eco,
That's messed
branding
up.
them as Martian ambassadors or sheep-headed cannibals from Ecuador. They were exhibited across the U.S.
The fact that people from the circus kidnapped them and brought them into the world is just that like they probably thought they were like doing them like, good, but that's still like if the parents loved them and accepted them for who they are, then like, you're not saving them, you're taking them away from a loving home. It doesn't matter like if they're like, you know, were born or weren't born without that. You kidnap these 2 children from their home. It's still not right. Um, no. I mean, if they were, like, in a situation where the parents were, like, horrible, just absolutely horrible and abusive towards them, then yeah, sure, that wouldn't be like, but since they weren't, that just makes them as bad as anyone else. Anyone else.
in Europe for decades told their mother was dead. They weren't just exploited for their appearance, their identities were erased, but their mother, Harriet Muse, never stopped searching. After more than 20 years, she miraculously recognized them in a circus poster and launched a legal battle. She won, not only their freedom, but their back pay and legal guardianship. Afterward, George and Willie continued to perform on their own terms, playing music and living peacefully in their later years. They were more than sideshow performers.
Fact that the parents missed out on 20 years seeing the sons grow up. I mean, people people who do stuff like that, they really need to like think about like what you putting the parents through. Like I said, if they came from like it doesn't matter if like who they are. If they came from like a really loving, kind home, and you just take them away, and then just like raise the Highland identity and raise them as like your own, but these they were raised as like sideshow oddities. That's awful. But in general, just doing that. And then it's great to hear like the story of when they finally do like get reunited with the parents. The fact that the parents missed out on seeing the children grow up, like how can you deprive a family of that? Like how could you live with knowing that you did that? Just
They were proof that difference is not weakness.
Mhm.
Behind every nickname was a human heart, longing to be seen, heard, and remembered. Their stories may have started on stage, but they now belong in history. If their courage moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more
There you go.
untold truths.
That's what I'm doing today. I'm sharing this with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm sure you saw that I was getting like very emotional. But I'm like very like a sympathetic, empathetic person. So like this stuff really does like get to me. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I just felt like I know it's kind of weird that I'm saying like, oh, this would be perfect for like Halloween time and stuff like that, but you know, I think this is just and like even if it wasn't like Halloween time, I still would share this video with you guys and just for you guys to be like, oh, and I want to for people to know the stories. And I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I do. I hope it touched you as much as it touched me. And just look forward to the video. If I do reactions in the future, it's gonna be shorter videos. It's gonna be not not hour long. So sorry. Okay. Bye guys. Thanks for staying with me. I might do a Halloween movie for Halloween time because I got nothing going on for Halloween. So look forward to that. Bye guys.